justice for all.
Okay, if I could have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting on July 20th?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. I am going to wait on our public input on the agenda. I'm going to skip directly to our CEO, Catherine Egan. She has a situation with a flooding car and children in the back seat of it that she needs to go and rescue from her husband. So I'm going to let you go ahead and give any report you have on the agenda.
Well, for the record, Mr. Chair, I don't have to save them from my husband. I'd like to make sure he doesn't read that in the minutes. Thank you. But to your point, my family has been hit by our South Tampa flooding, so my husband taking the children to daycare was stuck in a flood and he's been towed to safety. Records, of course, do not come with car seats, so I will be leaving to go fetch the children. Ruthie Reyes-Burkhart will be the acting CEO for the duration of the meeting. But briefly, just on the CEO report, we have been holding our TDP meetings. We have received some turnout. We are seeing a conflict with the TBX discussion going on in the community, so those meetings have proven to be more attractive. So we anticipate getting stronger turnout to our TDP meetings after the MPO board meeting tomorrow afternoon. Just those meetings are ongoing. We are getting good feedback. And with that, I'm going to go back out in the rain.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Shanahan.
I would just like to say, I think that the whether you're getting good turnout, we're getting good coverage in terms of the synergy with Go Hillsborough and the positioning as a regional leader and all of that. So it's all about hopefully the reality that people show up, but the perception that we are out there in the community seeking input. All of that is very important, and I think I think you're making progress on the coordination.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Catherine? Catherine, go get those kids. Yeah, good luck. Thank you. Let me go ahead and continue on the regular agenda. Is there anyone in the public that'd like to make a comment on our agenda? Anything on the agenda? I saw no one had signed up. Is there anyone in the public who didn't sign up that wanted to go ahead and make any comment at this time? I see no one. Okay, next up, Ruthie, we're going to talk to you about the Employee of the Quarter Awards and the recognitions. Who's going to present?
Greg Bracken, our Director of Operations Support and ADA Officer, is going to present our recognition awards today.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. We'll start off this morning with our Employees of the Month for April, May, and June. Our first recognition will go to the Stores and Customer Service Employee of the Quarter, and that is Jorge Pedre. Mr. Pedre began his career at HART on August 11th of 1997 as a bus operator and soon transferred to storekeeper. In the inventory department, he is known as the go-to guy. Mr. Pedre is incapable of giving you a response to a question. He will research it until he finds out the answer. He's married, has 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl, and Mr. Pedre follows all sports. Our Teamster of the Quarter could not be here this morning. He's out dealing with a little flooded conditions out here this morning, so he stayed out in the field instead of coming in here this morning. It's Mr. Louis DeArmas. He was hired back in 1986 as a bus operator. In May of 1990, he was promoted to a transit supervisor. Mr. DeArmas celebrates 29 years with HART this year. He has been a soccer coach and enjoys reading, traveling, spending time at his second home in Panama. Our Operator of the Month for April is bus operator Oscar Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez was hired on September 10th of 1984. He's a member of the 2 Million Mile Club and has been an Employee of the Month for 4 times in his 31 years of service. Wow. Mr. Fernandez has 2 children. In his spare time, he enjoys home projects and baseball. Operator of the Month for May, Operator Earl Nelson. Mr. Nelson is here. Mr. Nelson began his employment with HART on March 22nd, 2010. Prior to HART, he worked as a security officer for the city of Tampa. Mr. Nelson is married and has 2 children and 8 grandchildren. While he enjoys fishing and working on his computer, his favorite pastime is sitting in home in front of his big screen. Mr. Nelson wants everyone to know that he truly enjoys the job here at HART and would like to thank everyone for this recognition. Thank you. Do you have any comments? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Our operator for the month for the streetcar division is Operator Rafael Rosado. Mr. Rosado was hired in February 16th of 2004 as a bus operator, and then was able to be trained and qualified as a streetcar motorman. He has received several safe driving awards and also has been selected as the October Operator of the Month in 2012. Mr. Rosado has received numerous compliments, like that, compliments
You got a funny way of saying who's the officer
from
of the
his
month? I mean,
passengers and coworkers. His award this month was nearly unanimous. He is also a qualified streetcar motorman trainer. Mr. Rosado enjoys running and physical fitness in his time away from HART. Our maintenance employee of the month is Mr. Ivanhoe Brown, and he is here. You want to come up? Come on. Mr. Brown was hired in August 2nd of 1999. He began his career as a HART apprentice mechanic. Mr. Brown continues to attend various maintenance courses to improve his job knowledge and performance. He has received several HART Safe Worker Awards. Before being hired at HART, Mr. Brown was employed at the Tampa shipyards as a first-class ship fitter and welder. He is also a correctional officer for the Department of Juvenile Justice. Mr. Brown enjoys his time off fishing and farming. Mr. Ivanhoe Brown.
Thank you. Congratulations, thank you.
Our maintenance employee of the May was a vehicle attendant, Yolanda Dersant. Ms. Dersant was hired in September 8th of 2003. She has worked at the Lakeshore Villas for 8 years and a caregiver before being hired at HART. Ms. Dersant has received several certificates for safety and participates in many events held by the maintenance department. Ms. Dersant. Our maintenance employee of the month of June is a master technician, Frank Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins was hired March 3rd of 2008 as a communications and electronics technician B. He continues to add various maintenance courses to improve his job knowledge and his performance. Mr. Jenkins retired from the United States Navy in 2007 after serving 21 years, and his final rank was a Chief Petty Officer. He was stationed at Mishawaj, Japan, Pearl Harbor, Tampa, Florida, and Norfolk, Virginia. Mr. Jenkins enjoys participating in HART wellness events with his wife and likes to build computers, bike, fish, grill for his family on his off time. And our facilities employee of the month for April, General Maintenance Attendant Ramon Sardinas. Mr. Sardinas was hired on March 13th of 2000. He was named facilities employee in 2011 and 13, and also received participation certificates for the APTA 2010 Awards Program, the 2015 Paint Your Heart Out, and the HART Rodeo. Prior to his employment at HART, Mr. Sardinas worked as the forklift operator for Canada Dry. He enjoys watching action movies and going to the beach, which is not hard work at all. General Maintenance Attendant for May was David Hepburn. Mr. Hepburn was hired April 23rd of 1990. He recently celebrated 25 years of service with HART. Mr. Hepburn began his career as a transitway attendant at the Marion Transit Center and has been an Employee of the Month in 2005, 2009, 2011, and 2013. He has also been awarded the Maintenance Employee of the Quarter in December of 1996 and a HART Star. Mr. Hepburn has assisted with several HART rodeos, Paint Your Heart Out Tampa, several Super Bowls, and is active member of the emergency response team. He enjoys playing chess, watching old movies, spending time with the family, going to the parks, and taking long drives. And our final one is the facilities attendants for the month of June, and that is Robert Graves. Mr. Graves was hired February 7th of 2005 as a Technician B, Facilities Technician B. He served for 20 years in the United States Air Force. Mr. Graves is certified in metal arc welding, commercial heating and air conditioning, and refrigerator technology. He was selected at the Facilities Employees of the Month in 2011 and 2013. He is not working. Mr. Graves enjoys scuba diving, fishing, and bowling. And that's our awards for this quarter. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations to all the employees that received awards and recognitions today. We really appreciate your service and your hard work to make HART a world-class organization. Okay, next, Michael, Mr. Stevens, you're here to make the presentation on our safety initiatives.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good morning. Michael Stevens, Chief Business Enterprise and Safety Officer. Today's presentation is going to be a very brief overview about our system safety initiatives. As you all know, just given the nature of what we do here, safety is at the forefront of everything that we focus on. We are graded on our safety record not only at the federal level by the FTA, but also at the state level by FDOT. So I just want to run briefly through a few of those kind of program elements. Most of our system safety goals are focused on these 5 core objectives, everything from determining effective safety policy all the way to implementing strategies, as well as taking the information and continuing a cycle of continuous improvement when it comes to our safety initiatives. All of these 5 core areas are focused primarily on a couple of things, and that is just really focused on the safety of our passengers, our operators, and of the public, on injury prevention, reducing our accidents, and also lowering our operational costs. You have to keep in mind that when we have an incident as a self-insured entity, we are coming out of our fund balance to pay for every accident that we have. Now, we do have some insurance products out there that kind of limit some of the liability. We're looking at some more insurance products to kind of reduce some of that risk. And we also have a very, very robust subrogation program where we go after folks who have created injury to either our person or our personnel or our vehicles. And so we make sure that we go back and try to recoup those dollars, but still we have to outlay those costs. Now, to achieve those goals, the thing that we want to do and that we've been working on here continuously is first and foremost creating a safety culture where everyone looks at this organization and they take safety as their personal responsibility. So from the mechanic to the person who's in finance to the person who's in human resource, everyone in the organization has to be focused on safety, and in order to enhance that culture, you have to press it and push that issue from the top level of the organization. That's why Ms. Egan, the chiefs, all of us are focused on consistently focusing on how we can continuously improve safety. One of the ways that we do it, obviously one of the premier ways, and I'll get into a little more detail about that, is through training. We try to focus on every angle of training, from the operational side, from the customer engagement side, to the defensive driving side of the house, every aspect that we can focus on to enhance the safe and effective operation within our service area. And then the other thing that we always focus on, it's one thing to kind of focus on the training, and it's another thing to focus on the accidents, but what do you do with that data when you get it? How do you continue to take that information and reinfuse it back into your safety program? So we place a lot of emphasis on that as well, and I'll talk about a couple of those things. So let's talk about the notions of accidents and incidents. For us in the transit business, they have specific meaning. It's very simple for us when we talk about accidents, because it's any time that vehicle comes into contact with anything that it's not meant to come in contact with, ground, property, any of that stuff, which results in injuries. Now, interestingly enough, if you look at that picture that's on this slide presentation, this is a key example of what we're talking about. As you all know, the statutory caps went up to $300,000 in the aggregate. This is a bus accident that happened probably last year. For those of you who sit on the claims committee, this was presented to you. This was a bus accident out at Net Park, where, as you see, the bus impacted actually that very fixed and substantial sign there, right in the driver's compartment. We had a significant amount of claims as a result of that. Thankfully, there were no fatalities resulting from the accident, but that was just the sheer grace of God. But what we try to do is take those types of incidents and learn from them. How did they happen? How can we prevent those types of events in the future? And so that's what the whole program is focused on. The other aspects that we have to deal with are not necessarily the catastrophic type of accidents, but also those incidents that happen. Bloodborne pathogens, we have a spill or some type of environmental hazard. So those are considered incidents. We still have to respond, we still collect the data, we still pass that up to FDOT in certain instances, and we still try to take that information and take a look at it and see how we can continue to make operations safer, even on the incident side. One of the things that I really want to walk you through very briefly here are the core safety elements for our program. And if you're really looking at those 6 core safety elements, and they start with the employees that we bring in the door. When we are talking about employee selection, we place a lot of focus and attention on employee selection because it's critical to the safe operation of our system. I mean, when you have someone out there operating a multi-ton vehicle on the highways with motorists and pedestrians, you know, we want to make sure that we try to get those folks as prepared as possible to get out on the streets and get folks to where they need to be. So we place a lot of emphasis on employee selection and training. A part of our employee selection and training process is everything that you see here: customer service aptitude tests, driver's aptitude tests. Of course, we do a background check and medical examinations just to make sure that those individuals have no physical impediments that would limit them in their ability to operate these vehicles safely. And then, of course, on the medical side, there is a continuous FDOT requirement for them to get a physical periodically. So we make sure that we're staying on top of all these things. So let's focus on the driver training. So we looked at some of those things that we do to bring them in the door, but what do we do once we get them in the door? We give them a minimum of 320 hours of training for all of our new drivers. So that's about 4 weeks of classroom training, and of course 4 weeks behind the wheel training. And they're covering everything from defensive driving and effective management of emergency situations, those types of things. Because a lot of stuff happens out on the road. I mean, if you look at the inclement weather that we have right now, route familiarization is another thing. When we do bus detours to, you know, work around either flooded streets or any of those number of things, being able to do that and recognize the safest way to be able to move those vehicles and those folks is critical, obviously, to our operations. Now, our training goes beyond understanding just the mere guidelines, policies, and regulations. You know, you can sit up here and you can give someone a big, huge book and just kind of run through it, but we try to get them to immerse themselves in the situation, somewhat experiential learning. What would you do in this type of situation? How do you handle that situation? And we're looking at ways that we can continue to improve upon that to give them more experiential learning opportunities. Most recently, we've even looked at how we can incorporate some simulator training here. Out at Lynx, they use a lot of simulator training. There is a simulation and training command that the Army has called STRICOM out in Orlando. So they, you know, take advantage of that close proximity. So we sent some folks from our HR and our operations team to go out there and look to see what we can do to possibly bring some more simulated training back here. Another thing that we dealt with is, as you all know, recently we had some attacks on our operators. So we had to look at how can we give them training on conflict resolution and conflict management. How do you de-escalate those situations in those circumstances? Just last week, we had training here for our employees about handling stressful situations, handling aggressive passengers. How do we manage those things, not only to limit the threat risks to our employees, but also to passengers on our vehicles as well. And then also, in the interest of making sure that we are continuously responsive to our special population who have disabilities, you know, visually impaired, any other mobility impairments, that we are focusing on providing training on how to handle those unique circumstances, both for our fixed route as well as our van operators. The next area that we focus on as a part of our system strategy is our vehicle and equipment maintenance. And as you all absolutely understand, properly maintained vehicles are a cornerstone for safety, particularly when you look at the type of inclement weather conditions that we've been dealing with for the last few weeks, making sure that brake inspections and all the apparatuses that are the mechanical components that make this system and these vehicles safe are inspected. To do that, we go through a process of not only preventative maintenance, and we have a preventative maintenance schedule. It's laid out there on the slide. Those are just some of the instances. We also have different intervals like 6,000 miles and 8,000 miles. And then, of course, our repair schedule. Now, as I said, you will see the notion of continuous data capture and analytics, not only through our training, but also through our vehicle maintenance program. So we capture and record and log all of those instances of where we maintain a vehicle or there was some need for service and repair, and we have to have that readily available to FDOT and sometimes FTA when we do our triennials, and when we do our FDOT reviews. And so when they come down here, we have to make sure that if we have particular vehicles that have shown a propensity to have certain types of mechanical issues, that becomes data that's very useful. There may be a recall issue with that particular vehicle. There may be a number of other things that make that vehicle not safe for service. And so we always make sure that we focus on that. Some of the other areas that we do to enhance that safety profile of our vehicle are the pre-trip inspections. For our vans and for our buses, we want to make sure that operators at least have an amount of time that they can go out, they can inspect the vehicle before they get it on the road and they put it in service. And then, of course, on our rail side, we do rail testing and rail maintenance. We actually have guys that get out there and they will walk the rails to make sure that we don't have any issues on that 2.7 mile of track. And although, as you all know, it's 2.7 miles, but they treat it just like we are a full-fledged, MARTA or WMATA transit rail system for all intents and purposes. Most of the statutory regulations that we are required to abide by are exactly the same. Next component of the safety management system is drug and alcohol. I won't spend too much time on this, but to say that we have a very, very robust drug and alcohol program here at the agency that is managed by our human resources folks. And time after time again, when we are reviewed by either FTA or FDOT, our drug and alcohol program is often touted as one of those examples for other agencies to follow. So we have been very happy and successful with our drug and alcohol program. And in fact, the instances of where we have any issues that arise out of that program, given the amount of service hours that we have and the number of employees, is exceedingly low. So we have done a good job in engaging our employees, not only from a prospective standpoint, as in these are the types of programs should you have a substance abuse problem, but also from a prevention standpoint with our robust random drug testing and post-accident drug testing. The final, or one of the other final components is the safety and data analysis. Now, under the Florida Administrative Code Section 1490, we are required to gather reams and reams and reams of data. Everything from hazard analysis, accident and incident investigations. We have to document them. We have to come up with corrective action plans in certain instances. And then we have to feed that to FDOT. We are required, since they are a system safety oversight body, to make sure that when we have accidents, so for example, if we have an accident which resulted in a fatality, or we had an accident which resulted in the necessity for medical attention even away from the accident by 2 or more people, we have to report that to FDOT immediately. Anytime we have the slightest incursion in our streetcar line, we have to report that to FDOT immediately. So they're gathering all those data points, and we're looking at how can we improve the system. Just last week, we had a meeting with FDOT where we talked about some of the incidents that we've been having down in Channelside with our streetcar line. And so we've been working with the city of Tampa to see, how we can create better signage, how we can possibly get out with a public service announcement, kind of watch out for the rails or whatever, because a lot of folks don't realize when they're coming particularly through that downtown area, they'll look one way and they won't see the streetcar coming the other way. And so we've had a few incursions in that area down there, Channelside, and we're working to kind of plus that up and see how we can make the system safer. The final aspect of the kind of program guidance is our safety and security initiatives, because when you look at the program standard under 1490, they believe that security is obviously tantamount to safety. So what have we been doing in that regard? We've enhanced our security presence at our transit centers. We have recently implemented a new contract with Allied Barton. We brought that to you all several months back. That is working very, very well. If you've been to any of our property lately and you've seen the presence that we have now with those Allied Barton folks, it's a very, very impressive presence. They look like very professional security services that we have at our transit properties, as well as at the 21st Avenue property. The other thing that we've been doing to enhance security is we've been working with TPD and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to allow them to effectuate trespasses from our property without us having to necessarily engage. Now that becomes critical because, certainly Commissioner Beckner, David, and all those of you who know the notion of probable cause, it would normally require that if someone engaged in inappropriate activity at our transit center, that you would have to have someone either there to identify them, and sometimes that created its own issue. So now we have worked out an arrangement where all we have to do is identify, and you don't even have to identify from afar, but our security, or excuse me, you don't have to identify personally, you can do it from afar, because our security people can just go and give them a warning. Now, that warning establishes the probable cause for when we contact TPD or when we contact the sheriff's office to be able to trespass someone and take them off the property. Before, we had a circumstance where if we didn't have that probable cause, if no one saw or they weren't warned, we didn't have the opportunity to remove them from the property. Some of the other things that we're focusing on is looking how we can enhance our vehicle tracking and communication systems. So when we have accidents and incidents on our buses or our vehicles, how can we get some of that real-time data? We brought to you all an initiative to enhance our network not too long ago, and that's going to formulate the basis for us being able to have real-time video into our buses. So we actually can see what's going on if there's an accident or there's an incident by essentially dialing into that camera and pulling up what's going on in there. Some of the final points, we are working on and have been working on security and safety drills in conjunction with local law enforcement. One of the premier ones that we have often helped to support is working with the FBI. A lot of times they will use one of our vehicles for a number of types of things, hostage types of situations, how they can resolve any types of threats to our transit system. So we participate by providing vehicles and giving insight to help them do their jobs better. And one of the final things that we're looking at from the security and safety standpoint is a new piece of technology, which would be new for us. It's been out in the industry for quite some time, and there are many properties and many entities here in Florida that use it, and that's a collision avoidance system. All right. So essentially, a collision avoidance system is a camera that sits within the cab, and it kind of scans and goes through a whole analytical process, multiple times per second to see if there are potential issues that are happening in front of that vehicle, whether it's pedestrian, whether it's a fixed object, or whether it's another vehicle. Many of the high-end vehicles that you see nowadays, even some of the standard vehicles that you see nowadays, if you're switching lanes and there's something on the right or left side in the blind spot, it'll give you an alert or a notice, or the same thing in front of you. And this type of system has been shown to reduce accidents somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 to 50%. And the cost for those accidents for certain properties, for example, over in Orange County, over in Orlando, about 74% reduction in their accident claims costs because they've been able to prevent accidents in many instances before they've happened. So these are some of the types of initiatives that we're focusing on. What we're going to be doing is continuously bringing you more information about some of the additional enhancements, whether it's training, whether it's technology, whether it's any other safety initiatives that we have. And we also eventually will be bringing forward, again, I'm sure procurement requests for your approval to start to implement some of these things to make our system safer. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Beckner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael, you were, first part of your presentation, you were talking about you all were exploring different types of insurance products to limit liabilities. Are you referring to enhancement of our gap or our gap loss?
That's essentially what it would be. So right now with all of our vehicles, buses, paratransit vehicles, all of our vehicles, even our non-revenue service vehicles, we're self-insured, right? So anything happens, we may have a bus accident and maybe, $25,000 in repair, right? So what we're looking at is that exact type of thing, kind of a gap, or at least, to kind of mitigate some of the additional costs that go, say, above $50,000 in repair. So a policy would kick in and we would be able to, limit our exposure from a monetary standpoint after it hits that kick-in point.
Do we currently have for liability stopgap insurance for personal liability?
We don't for our, property types of claims for our vehicles or any of that type of stuff.
But I mean, on the personal liability, so we hit somebody, they're injured, do we have a stopgap that's in place that minimize our...
We don't. What we have is our sovereign immunity limits. So when we look at, technically, I guess statutorily, it effectively works as a stopgap, or at least a limitation of liability. But that's all we have right now. Because we are self-insured, we don't have that in place.
Have we had any claims on the personal injury side that challenged that our sovereign immunity that would have taken it past that threshold?
We have not. We have not had any claims bills that have been filed since I've been here which is about 6 years now. I don't think that I'm aware, but I will like to go back and just check the record maybe for the last 10 years, just so I can bring that back to you all. But since I've been here for about 6 years, we have not had any claims bills that have been filed that would exceed our liability thresholds.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, before I go to you, Mr. Shanahan, in terms of what we need to do every year, we always have to do our loss pick anyway. In that loss pick, and a loss pick is just our expected losses over a certain period of time. It'll use the analysis of former claims that we've had. So that report should be available for us to know exactly what number of claims we've had at a certain level. So then that way, if you want to fill the gap between what the statutorily allowed, deductible is, for want of a better term, because almost all of the commercial policies that deal with public entities start at first dollar after that initial statutory amount. You can find out what that amount is, and then you can figure out what the cost will be to buy a policy to cover those lower level incidences. So we have the information. You just need to kind of pull it out in the right way to show it to us. So
That's correct, and we can provide that information. We go through that exact analysis every year. What we do is we look at what our claims experience has been with our carrier, which is Pidgeot right now, Brown & Brown. And what we'll do is we'll look at any products out there that we can mitigate some of that exposure. But what we found is that the nature of our claims, they're not that, we don't have that many high dollar claims. So when you factor in what the premiums would be to go ahead and get that kind of gap coverage, they far exceed what we've been experiencing from a claims experience standpoint. So it's always that kind of going back and reviewing and seeing whether or not we need to look at getting something to kind of bridge the gap. Now, on the other side, I know we're not talking about healthcare, but we do that on the healthcare side because there are those instances, as you know, where we see some very significant claims, and so we do have that stop loss provision that kicks in on our healthcare side, and that has shown to be very cost effective for us in many instances, just given the nature of the claims. We haven't seen the same type of trend on the property and casualty side.
And just to close on that, I guess what I would just be interested in seeing, obviously, one of the things, I view insurance as the purposes of this to insure against catastrophic loss. So I'm more interested on the liability side if there was a catastrophic injury where there's a whole busload of people that end up getting killed or severely injured, to make sure that our agency is adequately protected in the event of us, even though it might be a small circumstance, that's what can have the largest impact on us financially.
Absolutely.
Director Shanahan, I'm sorry I interrupted before.
No, excellent presentation. You guys have a very robust program. I'm curious, do you have a safety award program, and has there been any thought to the savings that the safety program creates from a self-insured perspective, creating a safety bonus program?
That's a great question, Director Shanahan. We do a safety awards program. We recognize our safe drivers. We came to you probably a couple board meetings ago when we talked about our million-mile drivers, and that's one of our safety recognition programs. We also participate with the National Safety Council. So we are involved in a number of safety awards type of programs. There is the desire to always look and see how we can enhance our safety program here and our awards program to incentivize that continuous, kind of pattern of safe behavior. And that's kind of what I was mentioning about at the beginning of the presentation, about that organizational cultural shift of how we can incentivize and continue to recognize and reward those types of safe behaviors. So we're looking at ways to enhance that program.
But I think you need to list that out, because I think, I run a construction company, and we can all talk about the esoteric of the policy and the program, but until the people that are actually driving the buses or driving my trucks or see that it's real to them in a way that they get rewarded or acknowledged or whatever it is that they value, then you're going to drive it through the culture. You have to a culture is about driving people's behaviors to an ultimate end. And I think that it's a great program. I just want to make sure it's real down to, if I talked to a driver and said, what does safety mean to you? Would he have an answer that is, relates to his behavior, his benefits, his sort of package as a HART employee. And I think that that's important. I think that, people should know how many incidences you've had year over year. People should know how many collisions there's been year over year in real data, because that's how you drive it through the organization from a benefit perspective. And it's clearly you have a very robust program, so you're going to see the benefits on the insurance side, on a self-insured side. And some of those benefits should trail down to the people that actually create the benefit.
Absolutely.
So that's all I would just suggest, but I think it's a very good program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Melendez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Michael, thank you for a great presentation. Appreciate that. Just wanted to follow up on one of the points on the collision avoidance systems. I know, if I recall, there was a presentation. I think that was done. We kind of did a pilot program, I think, with those folks, and that area is of particular interest to me. I think it's great that we're leading in that area. I think that taking an innovative approach like that to enhance safety for our operators and the passengers is a great thing. I think that, so again, applaud you guys for that. And my question is this, is there a projected date or a plan where we might be able to quantify the benefits we're getting, or look at maybe the delta between, safety or, collisions, incidents, using that technology? I think it's exciting because we're kind of paralleling the the automobile industry. They're looking at autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles. So I think this is very exciting, and I hope that in the transit world, I don't know how many other properties are doing something like this, but I definitely am. My hope is that we'll see a reduction in collisions and incidents, and then maybe we can kind of trumpet that to folks. Is there a plan, or are we already there?
We are actually in the process of looking at it right now. What we do know is that there are several transit properties out there that are using collision avoidance systems. So, we have started that process, particularly over on the HR side. Derek Shinevert, our Director of Human Resources and Organizational Development, has spearheaded that effort to look at how we can get that technology implemented into our system. The beautiful thing about the technology that we're looking at is, to Director Shanahan's point, a part of the program is not only getting the analytics, but it also creates a safety awards program. So it enhances what we have by giving real data, and it makes that data transparent. So, our goal is, as Jeff Seward came up and talked about our transparency initiative. What we would like to do is link that data to that transparency initiative, so operators can see. We can get it down. If we use this, or we go forward with a system like this, we can get it down to the specific operator, where you can have almost a real-time reporting board to a certain extent of how well folks are doing, not from the gotcha standpoint, but hey, you guys are doing a great job. You've traveled X amount of miles without any incidents. Not only that, what we're getting to on the safety management side is those folks who have safety situations that they see out there and that they report. What this thing does is it incentivizes them to do that. Historically, there's been an aversion to kind of reporting, near misses, those types of things, because they feel like, oh, it's going to be a gotcha thing. But when we take this type of technology and we use it in a constructive way, and we have those type of transparent, data points, then we can use that in a way to say, hey, you not only saw this accident, you had a near miss, you reported it, you get kudos for that, as opposed to getting beat over the head. So we are doing that very portion of the due diligence right now to bring that technology to the agency.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Go ahead, John.
Well, thank you very much for that, and I definitely look forward to kind of follow up in the future on kind of not return on investment, or a way to quantify that and see what what benefit we're getting, and if that's something that we can kind of communicate out to other folks, because I love the idea of changing it from kind of that gotcha culture to, no, this is a great thing. Look at the benefits. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Ruthie, did you have a comment that you want to make?
Just to follow up, the pilot program that Mr. Melendez was referring to is the Mobile Eye project that we've been working on with FDOT. They are on a number of our buses, vans, and a few streetcars, and it was about 100 vehicles, Florida statewide, that FDOT was doing this project and HART participating with, and it is feeding back data in terms of even analysis of how the vehicle is running, and it is capturing some level of the operator performance, if you will, in terms of if there's hard stops or some close following and things of that nature. We're not using that particular data at this time, but the equipment is available for us after the project, the pilot is over, and then we need to consider whether that's something we want to continue moving forward with.
Yeah, and that follows the insurance industry standard, which is they're giving incentives for people who are driving safer, number of miles, that type of thing. So keep up the good work, Michael. It looks like you're way ahead of everything. Mr. Jacobs, did you have something to say or no? Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions of Mr. Stevens?
All right.
Thank you,
Mr.
Michael.
Chair.
Appreciate it. Nice presentation. All right, we have an action item up now, which is our approval of HART board policies. Mr. Smith, did you want to go over any of the specifics on there before we entertain a motion to vote?
It depends upon the desire of the board to hear additional information. I could probably give you at least a very brief précis on each.
Yes, that'd be great so that we know what we're voting on.
Brief being a key word.
Yep, terrific.
Before I do start, though, I would like to say one of the pleasures of working here as general counsel is working with people like Mr. Stevens and his group. You have some very excellent staff who do great work. I know you realize that, but it's sometimes good to hear from people who are sort of a third party in the process, although not entirely a third party. The first issue is what I would call very ministerial sets of changes. I sent you a memorandum dated July 20th. These deal with section 100, 200, and 600. They're fairly straightforward. They're primarily organizational. These were prepared by staff to reflect changes such as the county now will appoint 7 board members, the address will be changed, the method for handling certain records will be revised and clarified. I see these as non-controversial. I think it would be a good idea if we could have a motion, if the board is so inclined, to approve all of these changes en masse and move forward to the next set.
Okay. Are there any questions of Mr. Smith about these changes to our policies? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve these all together? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Appreciate it.
Well, the last set of changes deal with section 400. I only
I
dealt
apologize.
with
Go
100,
ahead.
200, and 600. And these are, in essence, what we would call our ethics provisions. Again, just to provide you a context, what we did was Sylvia Berrien, Marco Sandusky, and I met. We got guidance from the CEO. We dealt with changing the policies that exist currently in what I'd call our ethics provisions. It's important to realize that the primary control and guidance is provided by Florida Statute Chapter 112. These are policies and provisions that deal with the implementation and the mechanisms attendant to making sure those ethics requirements are followed, that there's a management scheme and chain of command for processing these things so that people know where the guidance is going to come from, to also establish notification and process. So most of that in here deals with those sorts of issues. They're not establishing what the gift policy is. That's established by state law. There are some policies in here, however, that are different from Chapter 112. I sent you a separate summary on these on July 6th. I think you've had an opportunity to go through those. We can go through those, or if you prefer, what I can do is answer any questions if anybody has any. There's a couple of provisions that you could go in several different directions. There's no one clear approach. One chief example of that deals with your policy with respect to running for office. There's a variety of different ways you could approach that. The policy we have is a policy that we're proposing as a policy that is a consensus based on communications with staff, and that's what's before you today.
Okay. Well, before we go ahead, I want to make sure that we voted on sections 100 and 200. This is section 400 that you're mentioning now, correct?
You voted on 100, 200, and 600.
Okay, terrific. I just wanted to make sure because the item is not listed separately as 2A or 2B. So since we're talking about it, I want to make sure that Lena has that in the minutes, that we voted on those 3 sections first. Mr. Bowers.
Yes, I'd just like to know, as we look at the changes for certain areas of 400, or 600 rather, how does it compare with other public organizations? Are we in line with them, especially if you want to run for office, or if you want to do something of that nature with the leave, probably not being able to get your job back? How does that compare with other jurisdictions?
That's a very good question, and one that is not as easy to answer as it would seem. This is fairly unique, and I say that simply because a lot of other ethics codes don't specifically address that, because it's addressed in some cases by statute. When I was city attorney, we had a situation where a police officer wanted to run for mayor, and the statute appeared to require that that individual would have to resign to run. The district court upheld that determination. The appellate court was uncertain. After various iterations, ultimately the decision was that he did not have to, in fact, resign to run. So there are issues that deal with fundamental rights that people have, and until those are litigated, it's hard to provide you great clarity, but certainly participating in the political process is an important right. Necessarily retaining your job, however, could be something that is determined on a case-by-case basis and an organization-by-organization basis, depending upon the factors they look at. The police situation is heavily regulated. There's an agreement that governs that process, as well as having state statutes. But your process is the one that's in the policies you're looking at, contemplates that a person could take a leave of absence, which I think is limited to 6 weeks, if I'm understanding that correctly. The leave of absence, 60 days. That would be something they would be entitled to do. But beyond that, they would not necessarily be entitled to get their job back if they were unsuccessful. The calculus is primarily related to the significance of the position and the analysis of the CEO with respect to the impact on the organization. For example, if you were to be without somebody for a significant period of time, the CEO determines it has a significant impact and the position is filled, then that job would not be available.
Who would make that decision? I think that I have to commend staff and our CEO having a good working relationship, and I think in this case we would not have a problem. But if you look long range, over the next 10, 15 years, we don't know who we'll have at the rim. Who would make that decision?
The policy before you has that decision made by the CEO.
And if I could, the case that you mentioned obviously was a fairly famous case that you were involved with concerning, he was a police captain, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And you know, one of the problems is that when you're talking about a command structure where the mayor is the head of the police force and then someone is running against the mayor, it makes it extremely difficult to get things done if, you know, someone doesn't want to, you know, is making comments or attacking a mayor who is supposedly the person that they report to. It makes it extremely difficult. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this policy kind of takes that in consideration because not anybody, it's not, every employee has a right to do whatever they want to do, but they have to take that leave of absence, and then the guarantee of a job is not there because they've taken the leave of absence. So I think that that's an important distinction. It is not keeping someone from running for office. It's just saying that we have our rights and obligations to HART itself in terms of who is going to be able to replace a specific person, especially if it's someone that's significant, let's say like a police captain. We got caught, the city of Tampa did, in a situation because it wasn't clarified, and unfortunately, you know, you had to argue that it was, and eventually it came back to us, and we had to sign a check. And then there's nothing wrong with that, I guess, but
Judges make mistakes.
Judges do make mistakes sometimes. That's true. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Jacobs?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, I think one of the things that One of the things I was concerned about in the policy, make sure it was clarified, was the post-employment policy. I think we had a discussion regarding employees who leave the employment of HART and then perhaps join a company because of their expertise or experience that would, I'll try it again, there we go. Because of their experience are of value to companies that do business with HART for some reason or want to do business with HART, and how that affects the ability of that company because of the policy here to be able to go after, through the procurement process with HART, should an RFP go out, an RFQ go out for goods or services that this former employee may be working for a company that has interest in going into the competitive process or the qualifications-based process. Does that affect that company's ability to do that, or the participation of that employee with a company that normally would go after those services? In other words, I want to make sure we're not limiting somebody's ability to make a living or limiting companies' ability to provide services that would be more than qualified or qualified to provide those goods or services to HART under a competitive process or a qualifications-based process. That's my only question with that.
I believe your question relates to the prohibition of appearing before and participating on the other side once you leave HART. There's a 2-year prohibition, for example, in the city. There's also some statutory requirements with regard to that. I'm trying to locate our specific policy. Is Marco here by any chance? No, he's not.
The one I was
Okay.
looking at here is 410.02 F, post-employment policy.
Okay, let me find that. Okay, no employee shall do business with HART for a period of 2 years after leaving HART's employment. That's the post-employment policy. There is a provision in Chapter 112, which I do not have with me, that also deals with that provision. And if you're interested, I could make sure we look at that and see to what extent that is actually different or not. If it's not different, we don't need to have it. Unfortunately, my iPad is not working today for some reason. I could pull that up and tell you that. Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up to make sure we were aware of that.
Right.
And that provision, that we are making a decision on that, and what our feeling is certainly on what that policy should or shouldn't be. I think that's an important one.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Shanahan?
I think it's important to have that time and separation.
Yeah. And I think, as Mr. Smith mentioned, I think it's pretty clear in state statute. I think that we follow it, and I assume that's exactly how we wrote this in terms of following state statute concerning ethics and people who come back that want to do business with HART.
Correct. 112 would govern.
Terrific. All right. Any other questions or comments? Can I entertain a motion to pass that specific portion of our policies? I think it was 400. Is that 400?
Section 400.
Section 400. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, our next items up are, we heard from the Chief Executive Officer earlier. My report is short and sweet. We are going to have a major projects and legislative committee meeting coming up on August 17th. We're going to talk about our legislative priorities. We're going to look at our priorities to the advocacy group, which is our state lobbying group, and to Holland Knight, which is our federal lobbying group. Please make sure that if there are any issues or comments concerning those particular legislative priorities or ideas, please attend the meeting, because I think it's important that we all have an input. I know that it's going to closely hew to what we've asked for in the past, plus what we're looking at in terms of our transit development plan and where this fits into Go Hillsborough. So if everyone would please, if they want to participate, please do. And if not, make sure you, when you show up at the next regularly scheduled meeting for HART, and we have to approve that legislative committee's update, let us know so that we can go forward. Mr. Roche.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I have a scheduled vacation, so I won't be able to go to the legislative meeting, but I would like to bring up two things that were discussed by our advocate, Justin Day. He mentioned the first mile, last mile pilot program that he said, quote, it was a priority for Senator Brandis, who is the state transportation committee chair. So I think that ought to be high on our list to ask for. I think it's a great opportunity. For me personally, I know it incorporates some of the components of rideshare, a little bit different to kind of work around. And in that vein, I wouldn't be opposed to, at that point, bringing up a resolution. Given the public comment that we had by Miss Janice Goodwin, I think, the blind patron who, has been, having a very difficult time with HART Plus getting around town. She's looking for reliability. These rideshare services could really help out in that situation, especially when she needed to get to daycare right away. For our point-to-point service, we're spending $30 a trip each way. And I think that is something that we really need to look at. We're not just in the business to provide the service. We are to, make sure that there is good transit service throughout the county. And so I think it really is in our purview to support efforts. I spoke with my legislator, Jamie Grant, and he mentioned that they are going to be putting forth some legislation along with Senator Brandis as far as working through some of the issues at the state level with insurance and background checks. So I think as an agency that maybe the committee can consider looking at that at the next meeting. Do we want to put forward a resolution in support of those efforts as well? And then finally, Mr. Day also mentioned the CNG rebate bill, which would actually put public agencies first in line for the unencumbered funds already from the natural gas rebate program. And I think that's a good thing that we need to put on our high on our legislative. They're not financial asks, but I think these are asks that will definitely that one I guess is. I'm seeing how we're putting online some more CNG buses, but so those issues I think ought to be brought forward at the next meeting.
Thanks. Ms. Shanahan.
I totally support that. I've met with Jeff Brandis this summer, and the first mile, last mile is connected with the Uber, connected with the insurance. It's all woven together, Uber and Lyft, that we need to be voiceful about that. I hope I can make it on the 17th. I don't know what time it is, but the other thing I would say is, from a topic perspective, these are pretty, decent topics. It's really about a plan. It's about who gets up there, who we're meeting with, where we're meeting with them, how consistent those, it's the execution of a plan in terms of education of the key people in Tallahassee on a consistent basis that implements to or executes to getting some sort of funding or understanding of the impact. So I just I would urge there to be a very specific plan with members of the HART Board, members of the community here, members of anybody who wants to be helpful in a coordinated form and fashion. That's as important as the subject matter.
I totally agree, and that is one of the things that the CEO is doing with each one of these groups, because what we find, and we found this past legislative session, is that we targeted one area and then it goes into a totally different direction, and I think we have to have a better holistic plan on how things may go sideways. I mean, nothing ever goes in the wrong direction in the legislature, or I know, but looking at your face, Ms. Shanahan, that never happens, I'm sure. But I do think it's important for us to get that plan together so that we know what players we're dealing with, because today's enemy is tomorrow's friend, and so on. So we have to make sure we do that. In terms of the first mile, last mile, I have talked to Zipcar specifically, in addition to making sure that Lyft and Uber and everyone else has been in contact with us, to tell them we have opportunities to, really share services, or at least share locations, so that people have that opportunity to get onto, let's say, an Uber or Lyft or someplace else. Uber, as you know, pulled out of Broward County because of issues with the county and their disagreement as to how they operate. So, we have our unique situation with the PTC, but definitely we need to make sure that we keep making those those conversations so that we continue to go.
I just want to
Go
make
ahead.
one clarification. I'm not sure Uber would sit here and say they pulled out of Broward.
Okay, I gotcha.
Just from a how it gets spun perspective. I think Uber was shut down in Broward.
Right,
From an operational perspective. So it's all how it gets explained. And I think most importantly, from a service provider perspective, for the audience that we're trying to help get to access to transport or transit, it is an alternative. There are ride-sharing alternatives that might not even be existing today that we need to encourage and not discourage from a service provider perspective.
Well, and just to follow up on that, I apologize. You're right, because you stop enough Uber drivers, eventually they're going to pull out because they've been pressured to pull out. I'm surprised that they pulled out. I mean, that service is no longer available in Broward, considering how much ink and trouble we've had here in Hillsborough County. That actually stunned me. I was very surprised by that. Secondly, something before you got on our board, Ms. Shanahan, that we talked about was a very interesting project, and I think Brandis also saw it, Senator Brandis, was a plan called Metro B, which is a direct, first mile, last mile kind of project to service transit specifically. So now that's something that's in the beginning stages, but nonetheless, we are looking at everything possible to try and make the transit experience, all of it, easy for people. And that's, I think, really a great thing for this board. We've really concentrated a lot on that. So, Mr. Melendez, do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to applaud, everyone for the kind of bringing forth a report on the communications you've had. I think this is the arena where we have to talk with each other. But I think as we go out and talk with representatives, I just want to encourage that and say thank you. And I definitely, I can feel the spirit of where the conversation's going. There are a lot of, you've got TBX is very, very hot. And so I just wanted to kind of second the idea that we go out kind of as that individual ambassadors, talk with representatives, come back and bring that report, and then as well as our CEO, I think we need to keep that communication open here, and I look forward to also getting engaged myself, but thank you. I appreciate
Perfect.
that.
Any other questions or comments on this issue? Okay, thank you very much. We General Counsel's report. I assume, Mr. Smith, there's nothing more to add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet, we like that. Okay, we have our HART Committee reports as always in the back of our materials, and all other reports concerning it. We have public comment next. We have several people that like to talk. I believe we have 3 people here. Mr. Henry Spells, sir, if you could come up and, do you need some assistance, sir? There we go.
All right, hold on.
Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Spells.
How you guys doing today?
Very good.
Everybody in behind me also. If there's a way that I could access the computer for Google Maps and I could show you what I have problems with. If there's a way I could do that, like wait. No, I can't do that. Wait.
Did you want to show us a map of?
Yes, I
okay.
need to show you a map of my neighborhood within Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? Is it about a specific route or a specific service that you're having a problem with, or?
It's Route 9.
Mm-hmm.
It's Route 9 north and south. I was figuring out because I understand that that when Route 9 had some bus stops, they wait, hold on, let me find Google Map.
Well, I was going to suggest, Mr. Spells,
Yes.
just tell us, because we have all of our operational people here, and we can try and answer some of those questions of whatever problems
okay,
you have.
okay.
Tell us what's going on so we know how we can help you out.
Okay, so I was real happy how I was catching the bus off of my street, because I live off of 124th Street at this place called Fountainville Apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be a bus stop right there, right on the corner of 124th Street.
It was
Going north and
124th.
south.
What cross street was it?
It's like off of 15th Street, then you have 124th Street.
Got it.
And I understand there was like one bus stop way down the street on 15th, then there was another one, and then there was that one, then there was another one, and then there was another one. It's like 4. But I understand that they had to be taken up because of the keep the traffic, and they keep the traffic moving with the buses and moving. But yeah, I was actually fine with it at first. But I was like, okay, no way. I was like, no way. And then sometime 2 months ago, I was actually trying to, I think it was last month, I wanted to get on the bus going northbound from my street. So I had to come all the way up my street to go all the way over to the next street just to go to the bus stop, right? And yeah, I was going so fast. I was going fast. I was going fast, trying to get to the bus stop before the bus. Okay, you're not gonna like this, but I actually kind of slipped I kind of fell in the middle of the street. Kind of got the attention of a school bus driver, but yet I was trying to get to the HART bus so I could get on the bus and go to UATC.
Mm-hmm. And so what you're saying is that the bus stop is no longer operational, and so you've found it a lot farther distance for you to get to the new bus stop that's located. Is that correct? I just want to make sure we get what your issue is. If you don't mind, Mr. Spells, and this might help you, can we get with our operational people to talk to you about this and try and see how we can solve the problem, whether it's with one of our other services, whether we can kind of fill that gap for you, because it does sound like you're having a lot longer walk, a lot more difficult walk for you to go now that they've changed that. If you don't mind us talking to you personally about that.
I mean, I really don't mind because I really want to see what's happening, and then I also have some more things in my mind, like I wonder if you. Because I was wondering, are you gonna, if it's possible, if you could start a new bus route for New Tampa? Because, you know where New Tampa is? New Tampa's like a different section of Tampa that nobody's probably never seen. And me, I'm a kind of a sightseer. And I kind of want to see new things. I was hoping that if there's a route for New Tampa, I would have thought it was cool. And how she mentioned something about the brand new CNG buses. I kind of put on Facebook and told my Facebook friends, I showed them a picture of what GayLeague.com had, and I was like, please, everybody, please help HART get at least 8 more CNG 1500 buses. I said 8 more. Well, actually, I said 8 more because all the old buses you have right now are pretty much dying and pretty much sound like like they're on their last breath, and I don't know, but I swear I'm a big fan of HART. I'm a big fan of this bus company, because if it wasn't for cars, what would people do? My thing is, I really don't like it when people want to grumble and try to be rude to the bus drivers. For me, I'm not rude to the bus drivers. I just hate when people are rude to the bus drivers, and it just made me just wish there was so that's why I'm appreciative for the bus drivers, and that's why I just became a fan of HART. No matter what, I try to collect everything HART, from all the bus passes, and I got pens, pencils.
Mr. Spells, I appreciate it. If you don't mind, we'll have someone talk to you about the issue that you have over on Route 9 and about the bus stop near 124th Street.
Yes.
And I know that we've got a lot of operational people out here that can help you out real quick, and some staff, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for being an advocate for HART. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
About us as a transit system, not just a bus system.
We're going to have him advertise for Cole Hillsborough for us. Okay. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. Ms. Jackson, Janice Jackson? She had to go. Oh, she had to go? Okay, and Mr. Jerome Hope?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Actually, I don't have any complaints at this particular time, and I come with a possible solution. And as I'm visually impaired and looking around with my limited vision, it doesn't appear that any of the board members have a disability. And my question or concern is, are there anyone of the board members or anyone serving that has a disability? And the reason why I ask is because taking a proactive approach, being I am a consumer of your product, I think it would be a good thing to have someone representing me or someone representing someone with a disability on the board in showing that, because I'm pretty sure none of you take HART Plus. And in saying that, you wouldn't see the things that I see or be aware of the things that I'm aware of. And by taking that proactive approach, you can help eliminate some problems, probably forecast some problems, and do something about it before it becomes a problem. And that would help the bottom line for everybody and build customer service. And I would like to know, how would I become like a board member? The reason why I asked that is that I was here at the last meeting, and Jimmy Lovell had said he was a board member at one time. And I see no reason why I couldn't be a board member representing the people that are visually impaired or handicapped, disabled. And that would add a new perspective or a different perspective on getting service. You all will see things that we do, that you all do not do, that you all do not see.
If I could, Mr. Hope, I know that August 20th, at 3 p.m., it is our, which meeting is it?
It's our HART ADA Accessibility Committee. It meets quarterly here at HART, and we do have a number of advocates with disabilities that sit on that, including some advocate agency members from the city, the county, and other entities that are part of that group. And then we also receive visitors and members who like to join us for those meetings, and we certainly openly invite you to attend that. That's a regular meeting that includes a HART board member on our.
And in terms of sitting on this board, Mr. Hope, the way that the county commission, the city, the mayor of the city of Tampa, and this governor appoint members to this board. Of course, I think having an advocate that is either disabled or works with folks that have certain disabilities may be a good person to be on this board. Right now, the only opening that we do have is from the state, meaning that the governor would make an appointment to this board. That's the only one that is currently open. The county commission, whenever there is an opening, does advertise for it, at least they have in the past, and I would tell you to advocate to them too. Do you live in the city of Tampa, Mr. Hope?
Yes, I do.
You do. And the next time that there is an opening, that the mayor has two openings, there's one that has to be filled by an official of the city, and that's my position. But in terms of the other citizen members, the mayor would appoint those folks. So I would definitely make sure you advocate on that behalf when there is an opening. And once we do have that, opening. If we do, I will make sure that we contact you, and that's my promise from the city of Tampa. And I think the county commissioners will definitely advertise for their next position that is open when it becomes open. Right now, we do not have any openings other than the state of Florida. So, in answer to that, I think that, you know, in order to get involved, please be involved with our ADA committee, because we think it's important to hear from people who do use our services so that we understand as a board how to provide better services to all the people who are disabled. I don't think, and this is just a personal thing for me, I don't think that you have to be disabled to have the kind of empathy and the kind of proactive look at providing services to those people who are disabled. I know in my family that my grandmother was an amputee and did not drive and had to take bus system most, if not all of her life. And, you know, we understand that, and we try and do the best we can. We don't always get there, but that's why it's good to have you and all the other members of the community to come to us to tell us when we're failing, because we want to meet the highest standard possible. So I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Hope, but that's the best we can do at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. I appreciate it. That was the last person that was listed on. I was just going to ask if there's anyone else that would like to speak that is not signed up to speak. Please come forward now.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I am back again, and even more disgusted than I was the last 2 times I've been here. I am very, very disgusted with the service and the treatment that I've received from Heart Plus and Heart in general. I came last meeting, I spoke to Catherine, and Catherine made a promise to fulfill an accommodation that has not been fulfilled. Actually, at 5 o'clock that evening, Catherine and Ruthie called me back and told me that they cannot make the accommodation that she promised here at the last board meeting. And since then, I have not gotten a call back from Lori, from Catherine, or from Ruthie. And it is really discouraging to receive the type of treatment that I'm being treated as a visually impaired person. Your customer service representatives are not on the same accord. They tell you one thing, you call back, someone else tells you another thing. And here I am now in Riverview with no transportation and a promise from your CEO for transportation, and now I'm getting the runaround from Catherine, from Lori, and from Ruthie. And it's very, I don't even have words for the discouragement and for the lack of customer service that I've received from Heart in these last 2 weeks. I've left several messages, emails, texts. I have not gotten a response.
If I could interrupt you for just a second, what was the accommodation that they made a promise to provide to you?
The accommodation was, I called in to speak to your customer service because I'm having surgery and I had to move, I had to move because of my condition. I had to move in with my mom. So I called in, I spoke to several different customer service representatives that told me, oh yes, this is on a bus line. If you stay before this certain street, you'll be on the bus line. Well, I signed a lease, call back, ready to change my, my address, and now, oh, it's not on the bus line. We don't know what to tell you. They throw me over to Sunshine Line. So I call Sunshine Line. Sunshine Line tells me, oh yeah, we take you, but we only go 10 miles from your home to wherever you need to go. Well, for those of you who are familiar with Riverview, nothing from Riverview to Tampa is 10 miles in radius. None of my doctor's appointments, none of my self-reliance training, the Lighthouse for the Blind training, none of that is in 10 miles radius of Sunshine Line to my house. So basically, Sunshine Line is of no use to me because it's not within the 10-mile radius from Riverview to wherever I need to go. And all of my appointments are very important. It took me 3 hours today to get here today. I left my house at Riverview at 6:30 a.m. and I just got here at about 9:45. That's how dedicated I am to speak on the treatment that I've received from Heart in these last 2 weeks.
Well, I can say adamantly that there's no reason why you should not have received either a phone call, a message, anything else to you. I'm not sure what happened there, and we'll try and find that out. I'm going to ask that our staff come back to us on the next meeting. I want specifics on this particular issue. I want to find out when she called. I want to find out what answer you gave.
Yeah.
I want to find out why the accommodation that she asked for could not be provided or wasn't provided. So I want to make sure that everyone on staff knows that this kind of process cannot be tolerated. I don't know what the bottom line is, ma'am, and I can't tell you that right now, obviously, but we will find the answer. The last time you were here, I think that we were very clear that we wanted to find out how you could be accommodated and to try and solve this problem for you.
And it has not been solved. And I've given you
obviously,
guys since March, and it's now August, and we're still having the same issues from March that we're still having now in August. And Catherine told me she would make an accommodation due to my situation, and I feel that I was rushed to the back to speak to Greg. Oh, don't worry, we'll make an accommodation. Don't say anymore, Ms. Goodwin. Go to the back, speak to Greg, give him your address. We'll take care of it. And then at 5 o'clock, when it's no more board members here, I get a call, oh, we're not sure if we can make that accommodation. Lori, I've called her. Oh, yeah, I'm going to send you an email. I'm going to get back to you. That was almost a week ago. I've constantly called Lori. I've constantly called Ruthie as well as Catherine, and I'm completely getting the runaround.
That's a good one. If I know that you're sight impaired, but
Yes.
are you able to email or to, if I could, I'll give you my email to
Okay.
the city of Tampa, that you can follow up with me directly.
Okay.
So that we don't have a situation like this again.
Okay.
Again, we're going to try everything we can to accommodate your needs in order to make sure that you are being served by HART. And I apologize on behalf of our board that you've had this situation continuously
Yes.
since the first time that you met with us. So after the meeting, I'll go ahead and give you my email address, and I will follow up with you anytime you send me an email.
Okay.
And if you give me your phone number too, I will follow up with you. So rest assured that we're going to get to the bottom of this one way or the other, okay?
Okay, thank you very
And
much.
I apologize again for the treatment that you've had.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin. Is there any other public comment? Anyone that has not signed up? Anyone that would like to make a public comment right now? I see no one. Any old business by our members? Any new business? Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to compliment Karen on her op-ed. I hope everybody read it in the board. It should
I
get
haven't
circulated.
read it yet. Where was it at?
It was in the Tampa Tribune
I missed
Tuesday
it. I apologize.
on the federal APTA, but that should get circulated to all the board members, FYI.
Absolutely, and I think that our staff will do that. Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no old or new business, no comments, other comments by the board members, thank you very much. We are adjourned.